All right, we're live. Here we go. I think we are live. Welcome to the first Her Hoop Stats WNBA Happy Hour. I'm Gabe Ibrahim alongside Calvin Wetzel, and we got Shay Jennings in the back doing all the clickety clicks and the clackety clacks to make us go. And yes, we are on. I see us now on Twitter. So welcome. How you guys doing? We are here to talk about the WNBA games that happened yesterday, WNBA games that happened today, and just kind of look around the league and, talk to everyone. I know our thing here says test. Shay? Yeah, okay, it says test, but that's fine, right? Calvin, how you doing?
I'm good. It's great to be with you, Gabe. I'm really excited to talk about everything that's going on in the WNBA.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, this is a happy hour, so I do have some wine. I'm just like LeBron in every single way. I can drink wine and do my job simultaneously. Also, this wine has a really good story. It is called the Mi Toruno Expression, and it's made by a brother-sister duo in Argentina, and she is the winemaker, which is traditionally a man's position in Argentina. So shouts to Maria Eugenia Bargodia. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but shouts to her for feminism. And we can get into the WNBA right now. So yesterday, obviously, the biggest news was the Las Vegas Aces beating the Seattle Storm in pretty convincing fashion. Final score is 82-74. The Aces at one point had a 20-point lead late in the second half. Seattle really fought back in the fourth quarter to make it a game. But, it was Seattle's second straight loss. They really, really looked out of sorts in that first half. And, this is kind of the second time they've been run here. So I think, Calvin, where we start is, give me on a scale from 1 to 10 your level of worry about Seattle, not like making the playoffs or anything, but just like, do you think differently of them after these two games?
My level of worry is probably a 2 or a 3, but yeah, I think a little bit differently of them. I still think they're the best team, but they did look a little bit more beatable, and I think we got a blueprint now. Teams around the league kind of have that blueprint where someone might, if they're on, might be able to take them in a 5-game series.
Yeah, no, I totally think they can. I've thought that. I don't want to sit there and say that they're unbeatable, because even last year, I think when you saw a team that was a historically good offensive team in the Washington Mystics, they were still a few coin toss moments away from losing in the playoffs to both the Aces and the Sun. So I don't think any team's unbeatable. To me, I don't think of them much differently. I'm going to explain why in terms of what they did. So just to give you some stats on them, though, over the last two games, they shot 40.3% from the field, which is dead last in the league. They're shooting 25.5% from three, which is second to last in the league. Shouts to New York Liberty. And they have a 93.5 offensive rating, which is second to last in the league. Obviously, it's way down from their pace from before this game, and pretty much what they've done all season. And I think, against the Fever, a lot of it was you had a team in Indiana that was jacked up, as we will talk about later. They were really psyched for that game. They were really up for it. They played probably some of their best defense of the year, but also Seattle just missed a bunch of threes. And, they got down on themselves and they got so far back that it didn't matter. In this Aces game, to me, it seemed like there was just a really good defensive effort from Las Vegas. It didn't seem like it was just missing shots. It seemed like Seattle was either rushing into bad shots or they were rushing into open shots that Vegas was giving them, and they were missing them. So in your eyes, was there more of an issue in the Vegas game in terms of what you can do to Seattle defensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vegas, Las Vegas is an underrated defense. They don't get, I don't think, enough credit for their defense. People love to talk about how they pounded in on offense in their transition game and Asia Wilson, but they're a really good defensive team. The Fever are not. So that first game is a little bit more concerning from that perspective. But like you said, they missed a lot of shots. In particular, Brianna Stewart was 3 for 16 between the two games from three. I think 1 for 8 and 2 for 8 respectively. She's not going to go 3 for 16 over a 2-game stretch, maybe the rest of the season. So I don't think they really have to worry about missing shots. What I think the bigger concern is rebounding. If you look at not just the last 2 games, but the whole entire season, they are 11th in offensive rebounding percentage, and they are 11th in defensive rebounding percentage. They're the only team in the bottom 4 of both of those on both sides of the ball. And the philosophy is obviously a big part of that, especially, on offense. They don't really go after offensive rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
And on defense, the way they play so aggressively on ball screens, sometimes they're out of position for those defensive rebounds. They start a front court of Brianna Stewart and Natasha Howard, which is great for being able to switch and get those steals with that length. But it's really not a team that is built on rebounding. It's a team defense that's built on forcing turnovers and contesting shots. So they're never going to lead the league in rebounding, but you got to be better than bottom 2 on both sides of the ball if you want to compete for a championship.
So you really just can't hemorrhage like offensive rebounds, like you're saying. Like they gave up 8 offensive rebounds in the first half, and obviously they got that in line. They got that in check in the second half, but to a large extent, offensive rebounds happen because of luck. Offensive rebounds happen because you're not getting a body on a body and you're not giving effort. So I think they kind of woke up in that second half. And you could see like what they, their defense, as you mentioned, played pretty well. They held Vegas to 44% from the field. They got 10 steals, which is a pretty good amount for any team. For Seattle, that's actually like not close to their best output this season, but 10 steals should get it done. They fouled a lot, but that also comes with playing Asia Wilson, playing Angel McCoughtry. And they just, they need to give a little bit more focused effort in that first half. I think that was the biggest issue. And then when you look at the box score, they lost the first half 45-29, then won the second half 45-37. So, they lost to a good team. And we're going to talk about the Aces in a second. But I'm not so down on Seattle. I still put them as my favorite. However, this is Sue Bird's second missed game in a row. She has now missed, I believe, 5 games this season. Am I wrong on that? She has missed 7 games this season. So that bone bruise for Sue Bird is very concerning. And I think a lot of people, when she went down, were saying, oh, that's because of rest. Certainly Indiana thought that it was because of rest. I think it's that Sue Bird's a 40-year-old and Sue Bird got a bone bruise. And hey, when you're older, I'm 20. I'm 20. How am I? I'm 27. Yeah. When something gets hurt, it lasts for a lot longer than it did 5 years ago. And Sue, it's a lasting for her. And I think a lot of people were also like, well, Jordan Canada is doing really well. Like they'll be fine without her. That's not seemingly what's happening. They can win without Sue Bird, but you look at the net rating with Sue Bird on the court versus what they're doing off the court, and it's a massive difference. Seattle's net rating with Sue on the court is 36.6, which is leaps and bounds above everything else in league history. Their net rating when she's off the court is 8.7, which is pretty good. That's like sort of fighting for a top 4 seed, not your favorite to win the championship. That 27.9 points per 100 possession difference in net rating is the 3rd biggest in the league, behind Courtney Vandersloot, who's at 36.6, which is insane for a player on a really good team, and Sophie Cunningham, which is a weird stat. I don't know how to explain it. That's happening. We can delve into that a little later too. But Sue is just so important for them. I think in yesterday's game, what you saw was that her presence would have meant that, hey, they have someone who's just going to bury a 3. Hey, they have someone who's going to get the offense settled. They're going to have someone who's going to bring the pace down to what they want to play, and kind of get them into a groove. And I'm not saying Canada can't do that, but Canada's also a young player. Canada's also someone who she loves to go fast, and that's kind of her MO. So I'm concerned about Sue Bird. Do you think that they could, if we said, all right, Sue Bird's not going to play in the playoffs, do you think they can win a title?
They definitely can win a title. Will they win a title? I mean, that's a different question. Like you said, that's a Grand Canyon gap between when Sue Bird is on the court and when Sue Bird is off the court. and everyone talks about Seattle's depth, and they have great depth. Jordan Canada is about as good as you're going to find as someone to, plug and replace when your starting point guard goes down. But at the same time, there's a domino effect. And now when Jordan Canada is off the court instead of Sue Bird on the court, now you're going deeper into the bench, and on and on and on, the domino effect. So like we saw, they're beatable without Sue Bird. They've been blowing teams out before these past 2 games. I think they won their previous, 6 games by 18 plus.
Right.
And when they're fully healthy, that's basically who they are. With Sue Bird not in the lineup, they're still borderline the best team in the league as long as Breanna Stewart is on the court. But they're not so much the best team in the league that you can't beat them, especially if they're having an off night shooting like Stewie did two times in a row. They're very vulnerable.
I agree. I mean, we'll see. Would you say, this is not something I planned for, but just, would you say they're
I love it when you put me on the spot, Gabe.
Yeah. Would you say they're more vulnerable than Washington was at this point? I mean, not even at this point, but even if they were entering the playoffs, would you say they're more vulnerable than Washington was entering the playoffs if Sue Bird is hurt?
Oh, that's a good question.
Right. I can answer first.
Entering the playoffs, Elena Delle Donne was healthy, right?
Yes.
Mostly. Her back stuff came up, I think, in the finals, or was it the semifinals? Now I'm trying to remember.
I think she had an unrelated thing in the semifinals. But her back, okay. I mean, actually, her injury happened in the finals, but her back was actually bothering her.
Yeah.
For a good portion of the later end of that season, but they were coming into the playoffs without Kristi Tolliver. So I'll give you my answer. I'm sorry, I should have done that first.
Right.
I think they are, because I think what Washington had going for them was, they had so much continuity. They knew exactly where people were going to be, and they had home court. They were sleeping in their own houses. They were able to get home court in the playoffs, and that was huge for them. And you could see it in a lot of those games in the ESA in DC. I think Seattle, similarly talented team, probably more talented just looking at it, but Natasha Howard hasn't gotten going. Sue Bird's hurt. So I just think, DC was clicking on all cylinders a little bit more than Seattle is, even when Seattle was playing really well, even just a week ago. They're not perfectly firing on all cylinders. They still have time to get there, but if this is the Seattle team we're going to see entering the playoffs, I would say they're a little bit more vulnerable than Washington was last year.
Yeah, well, the reason why I asked about Elena Delle Donne is because I think with even partial Elena Delle Donne last year, even when she was on the court, the Mystics were still more vulnerable in my mind in that scenario than what the Storm are right now. We saw without Elena Delle Donne, the Mystics went, I think, 0-4 in the regular season last year. One of those games she played 1 minute, which you can throw out the window. With a hobbled Elena Delle Donne on the court, not at 100%, in the finals, they were barely able to get past the Sun. With a fully healthy Elena Delle Donne, honestly, I don't think that series is going to be particularly close if she's at full strength. She was able to will them to a win still, but the Sun had a lead in the fourth quarter of Game 5. That could have gone either way. Now, you look at the Storm this year without Sue Bird. They're still, she's missed 6 games. And
I think she's missed 7.
Yeah. 7. Okay. That's over half their games.
Yeah.
They're still, even after these last 2 losses, first in offensive rating and first in defensive rating. It's very rare to see a team first in both of those. The Mystics weren't anywhere close to first in defensive rating last year. Their offense was just historic. Even with Sue Bird playing less than half their games, they're first on both sides of the ball. I still think that the Storm would be the team to beat, even though that's not actually who I picked as my champion. I just like to go contrarian. We'll get into that when we talk about the Aces. But I still think the Storm without Sue Bird are the team to beat. But like you said, they're definitely vulnerable in a way that they are not when she's on the court.
Right. And we'll see. If Natasha Howard gets going, that's a different answer to this question. Because I'm kind of concerned. Because that's kind of what the Aces were doing, was they were kind of letting Natasha Howard get those 15-footers, and she was missing them. Whereas last year she was making them. But let's get into the Aces now. So obviously we spent a lot of time talking about the Storm, and I think the Storm have been the focus this week. But the Aces look really good. They are a half game back of the Storm for first place in the WNBA standings. Asia Wilson is an MVP candidate. Yesterday, she had 23 points on 7 of 15 shooting, 14 rebounds, 2 blocks. She drew 6 fouls and was 9 of 12 from the line. This season, she is averaging 19.8 points per game. She's second in scoring. She's scoring efficiently. She's grabbing rebounds. She's quarterbacking the defense. She's doing so much. She is definitely going to be in the MVP race all season. I think, for a certain time, it seemed like Stewie might separate herself, but Asia kept going. And I think, as you can see, I'm a big fan. I have an Asia jersey behind me. But she has been so special this season. So what did you see from Asia yesterday that, made you go, wow? Because there's a lot of things for me that made me go, wow.
Yeah, we talked, I think, last time we went live about how she affects the game, even when teams are really crowding her and she's unable to score, as she did in a couple of her previous games when her scoring was down around 10, 11, 12, and she's still rebounding the ball. She's still playing top-level defense. Yesterday on a national stage, I thought that was really big time for her to show up the way she did against the best team in the league, against maybe the best player in the league aside from her, or maybe just the best player in the league, and Brianna Stewart, who everyone is putting as their front runner for MVP. That was a statement from Asia Wilson to come out in that particular game. It could have been any other game, but in that game on national TV against Stewie, against the Storm, to put up 23 and 14, I think was big time, and honestly moves her into the front runner position for the MVP in my eyes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I picked her for MVP on Locked On Women's Basketball a couple weeks ago. I picked her because, we're going to get into this season's going to end up in a semantics debate. I hate to break it to everyone. We're going to have to discuss what valuable means, which is, I get it. It's super annoying because we do it every single year, at least in one sport. But we're going to have that conversation. But I just also think, it matters that she is by far the best player on the team. No shade to Angel McCoughtry, no shade to De'Arica Hamby, but Asia Wilson's by far the leader on that team, and she's the reason they go on both ends of the court. And I think you saw it with Seattle, when Stewie can be going off on offense, and they could still be struggling. I don't think that would happen with the Aces. I don't think when Asia struggles offensively, they don't seem to struggle as much because she does other things. Actually, maybe an argument against this. I don't know. I got to think about this more. There's so many ways to cut this because I think Stewie is just so good. Stewie's, I think, the best player in the league. But Asia, I think, probably should be the MVP. And I do think we're heading to a time where best player in the league is going to be really debatable between Asia Wilson, Elena Delle Donne, Brianna Stewart. Maybe we could toss in a couple other names, but just for now, those three names I think are going to be in that best category. But I think where Asia made her biggest impact, on yesterday, even though she scored all those points, was on the defensive end. She's patrolling the paint. She's being a great quarterback. She's helping out her guards and pick and rolls. They have really good. The Aces have really good point of attack defenders, and Jackie Young, Daniel Robinson, who, they're kind of just funneling people to Asia, and she's doing a great job of stuffing them. I also think Hamby is doing amazing, getting her hands in the passing lane. She's almost like a free safety out there, right? Like she just kind of is always there where the ball is and always looking for it. And I love, she's playing the second most minutes on the team, but also just start her, to me, because she was so good yesterday.
Yeah, I love that you brought up. I'm glad you brought up the semantics debate because that's really all it is at this point. Asia Wilson is one of maybe two currently all-star caliber players on her team, and the other one is a decade older than her, coming off of almost 2 calendar years away from the game, and Angel McCoughtry, and is basically having her minutes managed. So Asia is really the only kind of player of that caliber. And, Asia's better than McCoughtry anyway, but McCoughtry does a lot of great things when she's on the court. No disrespect to her, but Asia is the only player of that caliber on that team who is playing significant minutes in this grind of an every other day season over 30 minutes a game and who's really having that type of impact throughout the whole 40 minutes on both sides of the ball. Whereas with the Storm, like you said, they have an embarrassment of riches, and that doesn't take away anything from how good Breanna Stewart is at playing basketball. She's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to get into the semantics of the literal most valuable player, it's to her team, it's A'ja Wilson.
Yeah. No, I think that's, well, Courtney Van, I mean, we're not going to do the whole MVP discussion. But, Chicago fans are getting mad if we don't say Courtney Vandersloot is also in this discussion. As I mentioned, the team craters when she's not on the court. She's so important to what Chicago's doing. Candace Parker's in this discussion. I think that's if Nafisa Collier may be in this discussion. That's
she's
probably
working her way up there,
right? I think she's benefiting. Well, she's not benefiting from an on-court perspective with Sylvia Fowles out, but in the MVP race, she's benefiting from that. Maybe DeWanna Bonner sneaks in there if Connecticut goes on a run, but I don't see it happening because to me, you do have to be one of the best teams in the league to be in this discussion for MVP. I don't think if you're not vying for the top 4 seed, then you're not in the discussion for MVP. So I'm sorry to DeWanna Bonner, but it's probably A'ja, Stewie, then A'ja, Stewie, Vandersloot, and then Parker and Collier for me. But we don't want to get into all of that. We want to talk about the aces. So as you mentioned, Angel McCoughtry had a very efficient 13 points and 14 rebounds in 22 minutes. Danielle Robinson had 16 points. I love what she is doing for them. She made a 3-pointer, which unbelievable. I had someone in the offseason. I was like, they signed Danielle Robinson. And I was like, I like Danielle Robinson, but she does not help them shoot at all, which is their biggest need. And so I was like, well, she could, she's doing a lot better shooting overseas, and she had taken like 10 threes. I was like, okay, like that's not, it's just clearly, she's like, all right, I'm just not going to do that in my game. And I think she's found the home for that in Bill Lambier's system. And now I have a question for you. Why is Carolyn Swords playing 19 minutes? Shouts to her for coming back from retirement. I'm sure the Aces appreciate it. I appreciate it. She seems like a very, very nice person. She had a plus 16 plus minus as well yesterday. However, she's not contributing to winning in a meaningful way for the Las Vegas Aces. And so I'm just like unclear why she is playing almost as many minutes as Angel McCoughtry. Is that going to last in the playoffs? Is there something I'm missing here as to how she's contributing? Calvin, do you have any answers to those questions?
Well, I hope it doesn't last in the playoffs. That just to be blunt, that wouldn't make very much sense if Angel McCoughtry and Carolyn Swords play the same number of minutes in the playoffs. But I think there's 2 answers. I don't know if they're good answers or not. The first answer is just that they don't have a lot of depth in the front court. Right. Most of their depth is in the backcourt as soon as they lost Liz Cambage for the year. They really don't have a whole lot of post players to come off the bench. And the second answer is that Bill Lambier coaches like he's in the 80s still when he played. Yep. And Carolyn Swords is the type of player that you put her at center and A'ja Wilson at power forward, and neither of them shoot threes, and Bill Lambier doesn't care because Bill Lambier is in the 80s when bigs didn't have to shoot threes. And you know what I love about the Aces is that somehow in today's age of basketball, it works. They are still really good at basketball when their bigs can't shoot threes. Even a bunch of their guards, like you mentioned, Danielle Robinson can barely shoot threes. And they are still one of the better offensive teams in the league. So that's what I love about the Aces. That's why I think Carolyn Swords is on the court as much as she is, almost half the game. But I don't know what you think. I just find it great. I do obviously love watching a good offense, pace and space, like what the Sky have. Everyone loves that. But at the same time, I love a little throwback old school basketball too. So, so I love some Las Vegas Aces basketball in that regard.
No, I do too. I also would love to see just like them playing their best players. That's my biggest thing. We can play this old school style. Like that's totally fine. But Carolyn Swords is just She looks like someone who just came out of retirement to play basketball after she didn't want to play anymore. So
that is exactly who she is. I'm not going to argue with you, Gabe, on that.
I like her though. I think she's a good presence for them. I think she's a good like breaking glass player. Like, okay, Asia's in foul trouble, and we're playing, I don't know, a big center. I mean, we're gonna talk about Brittney Griner in a second, but she's not in the bubble anymore. So I don't know. We're playing Tiara McCowan. Yeah, exactly. We're playing Tiara McCowan. We need someone large. Okay, Carolyn, go in there and stop up some fouls for Asia. But for her to play 19 minutes a game, it's just like she's not helping. And I think they could do a little bit better with giving those minutes to someone else. But hey, it's working. I don't think they're going to change anything. Bill, like you mentioned, is in the 80s, and he's not going to change anything if it's working now.
I do think in the playoffs, though, he has to shift those minutes at least a little bit. He's going to play Carolyn Swords more than we all probably think he should, but it can't be 19 minutes, especially if that's what Angel McCautry is getting to.
Do you think they'll get better in the playoffs?
I do.
Yeah, I do too. Just getting that shorter rotation, having time to scheme defensively for if you're, this team can scheme you on defense. I'm not sure how you get out of it as an offense because, what do you really do? What are like the sort of small changes that you could do offensively here? I mean, I think Chicago, their motion system, their wheel action does a really good job of taking Asia out of the play to a certain extent. But if you don't already have that sort of baked into your offense, I think it's hard to kind of insert that. And I think defensively, the Aces are going to throw you a ton of different looks. So I agree. I think they're going to be better in the playoffs. Shall we move on to Brittney Griner here?
Let's do it.
Okay, Brittney Griner left the bubble. For a personal reason, team said they're not going to discuss it. I don't see a reason for us to speculate why. We hope everything's okay with Brittney. Brittney's a really awesome person. She's been really good with the media this year. She's always a nice person. So we just hope everything's okay with her and that, this is nothing serious that she's dealing with and that everything's okay with her at home. But she's left the bubble. And so what that means is she's going to be out at least a week. If she comes back, she has to quarantine for a week. There's only 2 weeks left in the season before the playoffs. Doesn't look like Phoenix is going to get is going to get a bye, either of the byes, the double bye or the single bye. So, I think this is kind of the end of Brittney Griner's season. Like, even if she came back like this week, then yeah, sure, she could play. She could sit out the last week of the regular season and then get back to the playoffs. But if she, if this is an elongated absence, which it seems like it might be, this might be the end of her season. So what does that mean for the Mercury?
Well, Brittney Griner is one of the most unique and therefore one of the most irreplaceable players in the league. So it's a big hit. We talked off air about kind of that tier of teams that's building up right now from 6 through 10. It's that the standings are actually shaping up a lot like last year in the sense that there's a big gap from 5 to 6. And your top 5 are basically almost set at this point. Phoenix is at the top of that next tier from 6 through 10 at the moment.
Right.
They're all very bunched together though. They're hanging on to that by a thread. A couple losses strung together could easily drop them down to the bottom of that tier, which is out of the playoffs altogether if you finish in that 9 or 10 spot. So I'm not even sure. In the way the Sun are playing a lot better right now, the Fever just, lost to the Sky, but obviously they're coming off that big win over the Storm. The Wings look a little bit better. And I'm not sure that Phoenix is going to get a playoff spot if Brittney Griner doesn't come back in the regular season. I
agree. I'm with you. I'm not sure that. So tonight, we haven't mentioned the games tonight, which we should because it's kind of a preview. But we're going to talk about them in a little bit. Atlanta, Minnesota starts at 4. That game's on Twitter and League Pass. All these games are on League Pass, by the way. Dallas, Los Angeles is at 6 p.m. Eastern. That game will also be streaming on Facebook in addition to League Pass. And then Phoenix plays Washington at 8 p.m., which on Facebook and League Pass. So tonight's going to be interesting for them. So there's no Emma Meesseman for DC, which is a godsend for Phoenix because to me, they need this game. You need to win this game tonight to make sure you're going to get into the playoffs. I I think, tonight's going to give us a lot of clues as to what the bottom of that race is going to look like, because if Dallas can maybe sneak one out against Los Angeles, they're in a really, really good spot to move up past Phoenix. And if Phoenix falls to Washington, that opens Washington back up to get a spot, especially if Evan Mieseman comes back next week. So to put a point on this, like, Brittney Griner is essentially the Phoenix's system on both ends of the court. They run more post-ups than any other team in the league. That accounts for about 10% of their offense. All of those, nearly all of those, they've run 119 post-ups this season, according to Synergy. 104 of them have been to Griner. Asia Wilson is second in the league with 92 post-ups. Then no one else has more than 51. So that their whole offense is built around a Brittney Griner post-up. And in addition to that, they run a ton of pick and rolls, and they have one of the highest number of pick and roll possessions in the league. Guess what? Brittney Griner accounts for a ton of those pick and roll possessions because she's setting great picks and she's loosening up their guards to get down the court. Defensively, I think oftentimes her defensive impact is overstated because of how many blocks she gets, but she's still their defensive system. The whole point is our guards are not very good at guarding. Skylar Diggins-Smith and Diana Taurasi at this point in their careers are just not good at playing defense. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to funnel people to Brittney Griner. That's the system. We're going to funnel people to Brittney Griner. But now that person's not there. So it's going to take a complete overhaul of the entire system on both ends of the court for Phoenix to get to a point where they are playing good basketball. So how do they do that? Calvin.
I don't know if they do, to be honest.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I have a couple suggestions. Like, I think Brianna Turner should get some more time. She's been really good this season. I think she provides some defensive toughness and a little bit of that shot blocking, as well as a lot of versatility on offense. But would you stagger Skylar Diggins-Smith and Diana Taurasi more? Kind of get them, because them together, like I mentioned, they're not good defensively. Would you kind of stagger them a little bit more to kind of get some more minutes with them and a decent defensive guard?
Yeah, definitely. I actually, you brought up that stat about Sophie Cunningham in terms of what was it, the on-off net rating?
Yeah,
she's third in the league, which is kind of unexpected. But at the same time, I think that does speak a little bit to her defensive impact. She definitely has an impact on that side of the ball, on the perimeter, in the way that Diana Taurasi and Skylar just can't anymore. So I think you have to stagger them more, like you said, and put them, one of them with Cunningham in the backcourt to be able to actually stop the ball on the perimeter instead of funneling it inside. And then also you might have to start switching more. They don't obviously switch very often with Griner out there, and Taurasi and Griner are about as different as you can get. But without Griner, their front court is going to be a lot smaller, which also means they're going to be a lot more switchable. The problem is, you mentioned that's going to take an overhaul to the entire system, learning something new in this shortened season where you're playing every other day, and we have less than 3 weeks to go now until the end of the regular season. I don't know how realistic it is to expect a defense to be able to just completely change philosophies like that on the fly when they're in a position where they need every win they can get to make the playoffs.
Yeah. Sandy Brondell is a really good coach. Let's start there. Sandy Brondell is a really good coach. I think she can do something, but, I'm with you. I don't think they can. I just don't understand how they're going to change everything. I think because to me, like, the best thing you could do, right, is say, okay, our main lineup, our starting and finishing lineup, or at least finishing lineup. I don't really care about starting lineups. Our finishing lineup is Skylar, Taurasi, Bria Hartley, excuse me. Like Smith and Turner probably, or maybe Cunningham. It's just like, right? Like, the options here are not great because Alana Smith is a really good player, really good young player, but she's not good. She's not that good defensively. Sophie Cunningham is really good defensively, but she's going to be small if she's put in that stretch four. Man.
The other thing too is we were talking about, the Storm are 11th on both sides of the ball in rebounding. The next worst team in rebounding is the Mercury. That's with Griner on the court most of this season, who may or may not be a fantastic rebounder for 6'9", but she's 6'9". And you take her off of an already maybe bottom 2 or 3 rebounding team in the league, they might easily become the worst rebounding team in the league down the stretch.
Yeah.
And that's hard to correct too when you don't have size.
No, I think, it's just also there's a deterrent effect to her being 6'9". Like I think a lot of people have wisely pointed out, like, she is not a good rebounder, but just being 6'9" means that, well, there's going to be less people in the paint on an offensive possession because she's in there patrolling. I think they're, defensively also, it's like we're kind of scared of going up against Griner, so there's just less people in the paint for rebounds. So, that's going to be a massive struggle. And I think just the answer for them is they're going to have to run teams off the court. They love to get out in transition. They're one of the best transition teams in the league. They're just going to have to do that, as many possessions as humanly possible. It's going to be hard because they can't really get stops. But it's just they need to get out in transition. They need to push the ball down the court. They need to just get moving in a way that will make them make them have a sustainable offense. And I think it's just you're gonna have to. Hey, Skylar and Diana, y'all are gonna have to step up defensively.
And they're gonna need Taurasi to stay healthy. Is the other thing.
Yeah, because they're not. I mean, I think they're. I wonder if they're gonna get a signing here. Because let me see how many players they have. I'm not even sure how many players they have now.
That's a good question. Because if they are down to 9, I think is where you can qualify for the hardship exemption. Am I right? Yeah.
So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They still have 10 players. So no hardship. No hardship here.
There goes that.
The other thing is, like, Kia Vaughn's has not played well this year. So if you're just going to try to plug her into Brittney Griner's spot, I'm not sure that's going to go well. So it'll be something. It'll be something to see like how they handle that situation. But it's a huge bummer. I mean, I just really hope everything's okay with Brittney Griner. I love watching her play basketball, but I'm sure there's more important things for her to handle if she had to leave. So just really hope that everything's all right for her. All right, let's move to something a little bit more fun. Marianne Stanley, as we mentioned, they did beat the Seattle Storm very convincingly, very impressively. They were 16-point underdogs. It's one of the biggest upsets in WNBA history in terms of net rating of the team winning versus the net rating of the team losing. Up until that point, Indiana was getting just waxed by good teams. I think they had lost by like 22 to the Sparks in that week beforehand. So she was pumped up after the game, and she had some things to say, and we'll play those for you now. Yes. Okay. Marianne Stanley jacked up on beating the Storm. Good for her and good for the team. I think, so I get it. Like, you've been losing. You had 8 players and you beat the best team in the league. You're jacked up. You've been pushing this narrative on your team. Like, no one believes in us. And no one believed in you. You want to know why? Because you were terrible on defense this entire season. That's why we did not believe in you. We did not believe on you based on your performance in all of the rest of the games up until this one. And she was livid. So, I mean, like, do you have a reaction? Because to me, I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, okay, I get being mad, but don't say shame on us for not believing in you when you're hemorrhaging points in every single game you're playing.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Coaches all kind of have their different techniques of doing this, you know, and not even just coaches, teams. You remember last year, Connecticut did their disrespect thing with the capital CT at the end and the finals. You know, they love their. It wasn't even a Kurt Miller thing; it was a social media thing. They love to push push this idea that no one respects us, whether or not it's true, which it may have been a little bit true. Everyone, I think, crowned the Mystics a little bit too early. But
yeah,
teams and coaches love to push the idea that they are underlooked, underrated, no one gives them enough credit.
Sure.
And then there's other coaches, you see James Wade do this sometimes, who kind of try for the same outcome in the opposite effect. They disrespect their team on purpose. They get, they lose a game and they get into the media call and say, yeah, we suck. Our team's terrible. James Wade the other day said something like, I don't know if our team just drinks the Kool-Aid that we're good, but we're not, and
Coach T does something similar.
Yeah, exactly. They all have their way of firing up their team, whether they're disrespecting their team, whether they're telling their team that everyone else disrespects them. And so I don't know, I don't know how much truth there is to what she said. And did our video play the Sue Bird thing? Did we have that?
I don't know if we had the Sue Bird clip where she was talking in the game yesterday, where she was she said something along the lines of how, correct me if I'm wrong, she believed that Sue Bird sat because the Storm thought it would be an easy win and they didn't need her, right? Which I don't think is true. I don't know if anyone thinks that's true. Sue Bird, like you said, is 2 months away from her 40th birthday. She's had an injury-plagued last couple of years. She played against the Liberty, if I remember correctly. I don't think Gary Kloppenberg is taking the Liberty more seriously than he is taking the Fever. Yeah. No disrespect to the Liberty. So I don't think any of that is true, but I think Marianne Stanley also knows that they play the Storm again on Tuesday. Yep. That's each team's next game. And whether or not this is the right way to do it, she wanted to find something. I don't even think she herself probably believes that he really asked her that that's why they sat Sue Bird. I have a hard time believing that she actually truly believes that. I think she's looking for a way, to fire up her team and get them ready to go for the rematch. We'll find out if it works or not. But I think that's what she's going for. No, and I guess it worked. I don't know. I think they're going to get their ass kicked. Ooh, I can say ass. I think they're going to get their ass kicked on Tuesday. Why say that in the first matchup of the season, right? Like, if you play them twice and then you win the second one, go hog wild. Like, toss them under the bus. Like, talk smack on them. Be like, we got those SOBs. Like, how dare they sit a player who's probably hurt? But don't say that when you have to play them on Tuesday, especially when this team is like notoriously gonna be. They're not gonna. Sue Bird was in the game interview yesterday saying, I don't make any of my injury decisions based on another team, especially not the Indiana Fever. It's like, why give them ammo? Why give them something to say? Okay, we need to. They're already coming in off a tough game against the Aces. So now they've lost. They're going to remember that interview. They're going to be playing that all today, all tomorrow, and all up until the game on Tuesday. And I think they're going to come out, the Seattle Storm, they're going to come out and put it down the Indiana Fever. Not that the Indiana Fever are not a good team. I do agree with Marianne Stanley. I think they have been overlooked a little bit. I think they are a good team. Just like, don't say that when you got to play them again. And don't say, like, shame on us. No, shame on you for being a crappy defense. Like, if you're a great defensive team and you're bad on the offensive end, I can accept that, that whole, we're working hard and, we really have a lot of grit. But if you suck on defense, you don't have a lot of grit. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, if you're really bad on defense, your grittiness is highly questionable. But hey, I hope maybe she sees this and she can go off on me in a post-game interview if they beat Seattle again. Let's get into the games today. The game that's coming up right after we are done, so in about 15 minutes. You can stay right here on Twitter actually and watch it, or you can go over to the League Pass. Atlanta and Minnesota. Minnesota, we did a WNBA cast for them last week. You can catch that. We talked a little bit about Crystal Dangerfield and a lot about Minnesota overall, just in the cast, which is on YouTube if you want to go watch that. let's talk about about Atlanta. I'm concerned about the Dream. They are 2-11. They're a good team. They have way too much talent to be this bad. And this is the second year in a row that I'm saying this. Obviously, no Renee Montgomery, whose shirt I'm wearing. Shouts to Breaking Tea. No Renee Montgomery. This is the second year in a row that we are saying that this team is too talented to be at the bottom of the standings. This year, it's a little different than last year. This year, it's their defense. They have the worst defense in the league. I think they're giving up over 110 points per 100 possessions. Yeah, their defensive rating is 111.6, which is worse than Indiana's, who I just spent a lot of time bashing here. What's up with the Dream? And are you at all thinking that Nicki Collen's on the hot seat?
Yes. Okay. Nicki Collen's on the hot seat. You're right. I just look up and down this roster. Last year they were probably too talented to be 12th. They weren't really playoff talented either. With Angel McCoughtry being hurt, and they didn't have most of the pieces that they have added this year. And you can give them a break after coming off of the year that they had in 2018. This year, they add 40% of the starting lineup from a team that almost won the finals last year in Courtney Williams and Shakina Strickland. They add Kennedy Carter, which I get that she's hurt right now, but they weren't winning when she was on the court either. So I don't really view that as an excuse. Benijah Laney and Monique Billings obviously can play. They're having great years individually. Elizabeth Williams and Glory Johnson in the front court. There are too many good players on this basketball team to be 2-11. They are one game ahead of the Liberty right now. The Liberty, who are all 17 years old, and I don't get it. You brought up the 111.6 defensive rating. There are a lot of caveats with this, obviously, but that would be the worst defensive rating in the history of the league.
Wow.
Which it's a little bit it's probably not fair to actually say that they are the worst defense in the league versus having the worst defensive rating, because offenses are a lot better now than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We're working with half of a season of an already shortened season. It's a small sample size. So they're probably not actually the worst defense ever, but they're on pace to be the first team ever to allow more than 110 points per 100 possessions. They shouldn't be that bad. They have talent on their team. So I definitely think Nicki Collen is on the hot seat. She's coaching for her job in these last, 9 games. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think she's going to get another year. I'm not sure she's earned it because, well, in their first season, they did overachieve and they were really good. And I think, if Angel McCoughtry was healthy going into those playoffs, that team may have made it to the finals. Because even without her, they gave Washington a good scare in the semifinals there. So I think that buys her at least one more year. But I'm just like, I know Nicki Collen's a good coach. I know these players are good. So why is this happening? I haven't, maybe I need to watch more tape on Atlanta, in all honesty. Because I watch them play and it's like, first and foremost, they haven't given up. I think you can clearly see that in that game against LA earlier this week. They play really hard. They play together. And I think that's a sign of a coach who is doing a good enough job communicating with their team. But my concern is just like, structurally, what are you doing? Like how are you making this team better, right? Because she's going to probably, I think Nicki last year and Nicki this year is saying, well, we're not executing. Well, if your team continuously cannot execute your plan, you have to change the plan as a coach, to me. Like you can't just keep saying, oh, we're going to keep doing the same thing and then eventually you're going to execute and then we're going to win. It's like, no, you have to change your plan to make sure that your players can execute it. So to me, that's my biggest concern in Atlanta is the fact that Nicki has not been able to communicate their plan offensively and or defensively to her team. I do think they'll win a couple though. Like they look pretty good. And to be clear, this team is ravaged by, players sitting out, players injured. Glory Johnson had a really big game against LA and she is coming off COVID in the offseason. And, she's just starting to feel like herself again. So lots of caveats. I am concerned a little bit about Nicki Collen. I think she'll definitely get another year though, because first off, her team's playing hard. Second off, with the ownership situation in Atlanta, I'm not sure they're going to want to make big changes. And third, I think she has a really good relationship with the GM and Chris Sanko, and I don't think he's going anywhere because they got a lot of good pup for their offseason. I think he made some good offseason moves. So I think she'll get another year. I just want to see them play better because they should just be way better. Let's flip the coin, though, and go to a team that is playing really well. Probably, one of the two best teams playing tonight between Minnesota and LA. Minnesota is 9-3, which means they are a full game back of Seattle. Right? 2 games back. Yeah, they're close. They're in third place, tied with the LA Sparks. So is Nafisa Collier an MVP candidate to you, Calvin? Because she's been playing amazing lately.
She has. She has to be up there. I don't think she's in that same tier with A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart, at least not yet. She's also only in her second year. She's younger than A'ja, and she's already she's becoming a do-everything player for the Lynx way more quickly than I think anyone thought she would. Even a facilitator, I think she had 6 assists in the last game. She's averaging over 3 on the season. Her rebounding from already a solid season where she won Rookie of the Year is up by 2.5 or 3 rebounds a game. Mm-hmm. Her roster is changing all around her. Fouls goes down. Their backcourt has been as much of a revolving door as any team. Dangerfield has really been the only one who's been consistently in the lineup in the backcourt. So she has had to been relied upon at a level that she wasn't even last year when she won Rookie of the Year. She's stepping up. Her stat line is phenomenal, and she's really becoming that type of player who you can just give the ball to an offense on the block. She's even shooting over 40% from 3 now on defense. She can guard the other team's best player basically no matter where they are. She will win an MVP in her career. I don't think it's this year, but she will.
Doesn't it feel like she's in like year 15, right? Like she's a second year player, and even more so than A'ja. I don't know what it is. So maybe A'ja just has like a more kid-like personality. Like you can tell, like A'ja's like 24 or something. Nafisa feels like she's in year 15. She's like she's been here forever. And just like the little moves she makes, she knows where everyone is on the court. She knows where the defense is coming from to get her. I think she's going to grow with the ball in her hands too. Like she's scary, man. She really is. I think she and A'ja, we might be looking at those two as the face of this league going forward, which is great because they have a podcast together, which I hope continues after the bubble because it's very good. Tea with A.
It's perfect. And it comes at a perfect time when, the face of the league, the duo kind of for a while has been Sue Bird and Dana Taurasi, who, let's be honest, are both not going to be around forever. So just from a marketing standpoint and from, a viewership, a fanhood standpoint, it's great that we have a duo like this who hosts a podcast together, like you said, who is, and they're Black women too.
Yeah.
We have Sue Bird and Dana Taurasi are great. They're both white. To have these young Black women.
Same with Breanna Stewart and Elena Deladon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's great for the league, and I'm really excited to watch the next 15 years of these two competing.
I know. I hope they continue the podcast. I'm not sure they will. You never know what's gonna happen outside the bubble. But I like them. I think they have great personality. I like seeing like, so A'ja is A'ja Wilson's always gonna be A'ja Wilson. But I think like she's kind of influencing Nafisa Collier to kind of let out a little bit more stuff out in public on the court. Like she's doing those little shimmies now, and she's just becoming a leader of the team. And it's really cool to see with her in Minnesota. So let's make a pick on this game. I'll get the betting lines up, and let's pick all of them. We didn't preview all of them because we have 5 minutes.
We got to keep score, right?
We do have to keep score. All right, I'm pulling them up from my friends at betonline.ag. Okay, so the line for Minnesota is an 11-point favorite against the Atlanta Dream. So who do you have there?
Ooh, that feels spot on. I'm going to go with the under.
With Atlanta?
With Atlanta.
Okay. I'm also going with Atlanta. So,
all right.
Oh, I just clicked on this.
Not to win, to cover.
To cover. With the 11 points.
To clarify.
Yes. I'm going with Atlanta to cover by 11 points. Oh, they could win. I think they got pretty close last time. All right, Dallas, Los Angeles. Dallas is actually pretty good. I think they're a sneakily good team. They struggled early in the season, but they're kind of figuring it out. Unfortunately, Stu Door is not playing, so I guess she's just not a part of this team's future anymore, which is sad because they're paying her a lot of money, but stuff happens. So they are 9-point underdogs against the Los Angeles Sparks, who are coming off that overtime win against the Atlanta Dream. The Sparks, I'm not sure if Raquana Williams is actually playing.
I was going to ask about an injury report. Do we have for Satu or Mariah Jefferson?
I will look that up. Satu played in the last game though, so I think we can assume she's playing until I find this.
That's right.
I do not have the injury report. Seems like Satu's playing.
Well, yeah. So you said +9, right?
Yes.
Wings +9. Yeah, I'm going to take the under on that one as well. I'm going to take the Wings to cover that one.
Okay. No, I'm gonna take the Sparks here. I just don't think they have anyone to put in front of Candace Parker. Nneka's gonna eat. Yeah, Nneka's gonna eat on Dallas. So yeah, I'm gonna go with LA there. LA to cover by 9. I think they're a little mad too that they have to go to overtime with Atlanta, because they probably shouldn't have.
They played phenomenal in that overtime too. Held Atlanta to 4 points.
That to me, I had someone say this to me on Twitter. I was like, that defense was championship level into overtime, and they're like, oh, that game was so bad. Anything in it can't be a championship. The reason why it was a championship performance is they did play really, really badly throughout that entire game. Honestly, both teams did not play great, but it's a team that can turn it on. They were like, okay, we're in overtime. Guess what? This thing's over. We're putting it down. That's exactly what they did on defense. So that's why I said I think LA has that in them. I think they're going to go out and try to prove it. All right, now, last game of the day, as we mentioned earlier, at 8 p.m., it's going to be Phoenix as a 4.5-point favorite against Washington. No Brittney Griner, no Emma Mieseman, no Aerial Powers, obviously no Elena Del Don. Ooh.
No, I'm gonna go with the Mystics to cover and actually to win the game.
Oh, outright.
Outright. I think the Mystics are gonna win the game. I think the Mystics are already they're without everyone too. They're without a lot more than just Brittney Griner, obviously, but they're kind of getting used to playing with whoever shows up. Whoever's healthy, whoever's there, that's who we're gonna put on the court, and that's fine. And it's someone new every game. Stella Johnson scores 25 points. Next game, she scores 0, but Elena Coates has a career game. Maisha Hines-Allen has a career game. The Mercury aren't used to it yet. They're still trying to figure it out. I think the Mystics are kind of used to playing this way by now.
I think they kind of need it. One team needs this more than the other, and the other team just got hit in the mouth with an injury. Although Diana Taurasi is going to come out. It's Kobe's birthday. RIP to Kobe Bryant. I don't know if I mentioned that. So it's Kobe's birthday. I'm going with the Merc just to go against you.
To cover.
So by 4.5. All right, we're gonna wrap this up so you guys can go to Twitter, to League Pass, and check out the games that are happening today. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We're gonna be doing this more often. We like hanging out. I like drinking wine and talking about basketball. It's a lovely time for me. So keep it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Please follow us on Twitter. Find us on everything at Her Hoop Stats. We'll get you on every single platform we want: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can follow me at Gabe_Ibrahim. You can follow Calvin at, what is your at, Calvin?
C Wetzel 31.
CWetzel31. You can follow Shay Jennings, who's been in the background producing this. So thank you very much, Shay, at WNBA with Shay. And make sure you are also subscribed to the Her Hoop Stats podcast on all of your favorite podcast apps, because there's an interview with Holly Rowe. John Muller did an interview with Holly Rowe on what's life like in the bubble. It's really good. I already listened to it. It's out, so you can go listen to it. And then you can listen to me on Courtside with Christy Winter Scott, which comes out on Wednesdays typically. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.